welcome to our lesson today. My name is Anne Karobio. I'm from the School of Social Sciences, the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, and we will be looking at the unit CJL1303, which is advertising. So what we're focusing on today is the introductory bit of advertising, which focuses on defining what advertising is, looking at the functions of advertising, and later on, look at a bit of copywriting, which is essentially how messages that are meant to sell products or services are supposed to be written so that the intention of the advertising message is actually met. We do advertising with the intention of selling a product, selling a service. So if you're not careful on how you write and what you say when your message is eventually out in the public domain, the intention or the goal of advertising will not be achieved. So today, what we are interested in doing is first of all understanding what is this that we call advertising before we move to how we do the actual writing of the advertising messages. So advertising is defined as any form of non-personal presentation in the promotion of ideas, goods, and services, and it is usually paid for by an identified sponsor. So we say it is non-personal because it is meant for the masses. It is not a message that you write targeting an individual or just a small group of people. And note, we are calling it advertising, and we're using the mass media to get our messages out there. So it is non-personal because it is not speaking to a single person. It is not speaking to really a limited group of people, but rather you're targeting a lot of people spread in different geographical areas with the intention of selling a product that you have or a service that you have. And it is why we emphasize on the non-personal bit of advertising. We also say it is a paid-for form of communication, and this makes it very different from other forms of communication, such as public relations or even publicity, that I have to pay if my message or what I call an advertisement is to feature in the mainstream media. I am using radio, I am using TV, I'm using a newspaper or even a magazine to get my message out there. Because my intention is to make money from the product that I'm selling or from the service that I'm selling, I have in turn to pay these in between, or they go between me and the person that I'm trying to reach out to. And this would be either the radio or maybe a TV station or a newspaper station, for example. And this is why we talk about it being paid. I am paying in order for me to get my message out there so that somebody can also be able to buy my product or buy my service. And then you always have to identify yourself as the person responsible for the organization, for the product, or the organization responsible for the service. If I don't know who's responsible for what it is that I am buying, I may not trust that the product that you are selling to me or the service that you're selling to me is actually something that is good enough or something that will benefit me in the way that you say it will benefit me. So anytime you're defining advertising, you have got to always remember you're not targeting one person. And it is why you're going to use the mass media, which we insist is going to be paid for. But importantly, you also have to identify yourself. Where is this message coming from? So that as I'm buying your product or as I'm buying your service, I know who to blame should the product not be able to fulfill its promise, or I can be able now to accredit the organization responsible for that product or the service with the benefits that I got from using their product or from using their service. So these three, the non-personal, the paid for, and an identified sponsor, are always emphasized on when you are defining what advertising is. And then further on advertising, when we want to really understand what advertising is truly about, you need to look at its nature. When I'm writing a message for advertising, because it's not meant for myself, neither is it meant for just one person, I need to be sure about what the product is. What am I selling? What is my service? So that if I understand it, then I'm able to come up with the right message to sell my product. So I need to know what is my product, what is my service, and why am I advertising this particular product. When we will be doing copywriting, we'll be looking at devices that people use or advertisers use to sell their products. But even before we get to that, when you understand that it is important to know your product well enough, it allows you to know what to say in a bid to persuade somebody to buy your product, and also how to say what you need to say to your public so that they are actually convinced that your product is good enough for them to spend their money on it. So what is my product and why am I advertising it? We use the example of detergents. I look at an advertisement done by Omo versus an advertisement done by Ariel. You're looking at two similar products in terms of the purpose of each. They're detergents. They're just about cleaning our clothes or cleaning our houses. But then I'm looking at how does Omo advertise differently from Ariel. If I am an advertiser, I'm interested in understanding what is that about my product that I need to really emphasize on if people are going to buy it. Omo has been in the market for quite a long while. But then, if you look at the way they're doing their adverts, or the way they have been doing their adverts, there's a lot of insistence or emphasis on Omo being friendly to your hands or being gentle to your hands. Previously, we would emphasize on Omo having the ability to just very fast and very powerfully being able to clean your clothes. But now you're looking at, even though it can be very powerful in cleaning my clothes, is it a product that is not gentle on my hands? Is it a product that maybe is seen to be corrosive on the hands? So that if I now understand, I have a good product, fine. It is able to do the job that we say it can do. That is, it can be able to clean the clothes really well. But then I'm looking at the complaints coming in are that Omo is corrosive to the hands, that if I use it for a period of time, then my hands, my skin becomes, or it starts developing a bit of issues, or whatever it is. If I am an advertiser and I'm listening to that, and I'm responsible for the messages that, for creating the Omo messages, I will still emphasize on the fact that Omo is able to just get rid of the dirt, okay, but then I also need to address the issue of this is a good detergent that takes care of your hands. So you look at Omo nowadays, there is the emphasis on Omo having the ability to just be gentle on your hands. Omo states, ni muhimu kuchunga mikono ya mama. But Ariel focuses on, we can be able to clean your clothes in just motion moja ama urudishe hiyo product kwa wherever you got it from. So Ariel focuses on just motion moja. Omo focuses on umuhimu wa kuchunga mkono ya mama. Yet there are products that are meant to do just the same thing. Now, when you're doing advertising, its nature is that you have to understand your product. You have to understand your service well enough for you to be able to actually know why you're even advertising it. So it's not enough to just throw an advert out there. I have to know this is my product, but importantly, this is the direction on which I'm supposed to approach the way I write my message. And then the other thing, under the nature of advertising, not only are you supposed to know your product or service, you're also supposed to know the audience you're presenting your product to, so that you know, for example, what do I say and how do I say it? So if I don't understand who I'm speaking to, if I don't understand who the product is actually meant to benefit, I may not be certain about how I'm going to relay my message to them. If I'm speaking to the Kenyan youth, the language of choice, for example, would be very different from me speaking to the youth, but in a remote area of Kenya or in a rural part of Kenya. So who's this that I'm actually targeting that makes it possible for me, again, to know not just what to write, but importantly, how to write that message so that it gets directly to them and has the impact that as the advertiser, I would have wanted. And this is why we also say you knowing what, or you knowing who your audience is allows you to observe their culture. Let me remind you of an advertisement that ran in Kenya about, on Coca-Cola, Taste the Feeling campaign. We had the version, the original version of the advert when it first aired, or after airing for a period, we had people who protested in Kenya, and it got to the Kenya Film Classification Board, KFCB. And they had to talk to the Coca-Cola company for them to edit the advert to suit the Kenyan market. And this is why we're emphasizing on the need for you to know who you're talking to. What is it about the Kenyan people that in as much as they are consumers of the Coca-Cola products, it differentiates who they are from, say, South Africans? So we felt, for example, that advertisement, for it to include a kissing scene, it violated the family values. You have a product that doesn't really have a limitation on age. A young child consumes Coca-Cola, a grown-up consumes Coca-Cola, an old person can consume the product. The advert was running during the day on normal hours on television, and there was a kissing scene there. So the Kenyan market felt this was in violation of the family values that the people in Kenya hold. And as a result, we had the advert edited and that part removed. So the Taste the Feeling campaign continued on our TV sets, okay, but missing that part of the advertisement. So it is important that you not only know your product, but you also know who the product is meant for, who the service is meant for, because that way you're going to be able to shape your message to suit them. Observe the cultures of people, observe the values, the traditions that people have, and that way you're going to really do a good job with the kind of message that you come up with when you're trying to sell your product out there. Functions of advertising. We ask, why advertise? Why tell me about a product that you have? Why tell me about a service that you have? So the first thing we always talk about is, when you advertise, you're able to provide me with information about your product or your service that I did not have. Information that without, I'm not able to tell how your product has an edge or over the other product similar in nature, or the benefits of that product that makes me want to buy it. So why am I advertising? I am providing you with the information about a product. And the information regarding the product or the service must include the name of the product. Sometimes we include the price of the product. We also tell people how to use the product and where you can find the product. But this is dependent on the time that you have allocated to you to use to advertise the product. It is also dependent on the space that you have. If at all the product is going to be advertised on print media, how much time, how much space do I have? Because with this, you're able to know what is the most important bit of information that you're supposed to be relaying to the public. So why, or the key reason we advertise, is I need to provide information about my product, about my service, to potential consumers or existing consumers, assuming I'm advertising just to remind people about my product and not necessarily to talk about something that is really new in the market. So that's one reason why people pay to advertise. The other reason why we advertise is we need to influence or persuade somebody to buy the product or to buy a particular, subscribe to a service that I have. And we should have mentioned, advertising is very persuasive in nature. I am telling you something that I need you to give me money or get money from you in exchange for a product or a service. So how do I get you to just put your hand in your pocket and buy my product as opposed to that of my competitor, or subscribe to my service as opposed to that of my competitor? So I need to be as persuasive as possible. I need to use language that really appeals to that particular audience in a bid to make them buy my product. Again, we advertise because we need to tell people about a product, but we also need to, it is not enough to tell somebody, you need to persuade them, you need to make them want to own your product, want to buy your product. So how then does this work? If the intention is to make you aware that my product exists out there in the market, I've told you where you can get it, for how much, how to use that product, is it enough for you to actually want or desire to have that product? And this is why, still under the functions of advertising, we always talk about influencing or persuading people towards buying the product or the service. But persuasion is said to be psychological. It is not something that is as easy to do as maybe we would ordinarily assume. In advertising, we talk about a formula called the AIDA formula. If I need you to buy my product, I need to be particular about what I say and how I say it to you. So there is what we now refer to as the AIDA formula, with letter A standing for attention, I is interest, D is desire, C is conviction, and A is action. Here is how it works. With attention, you need to make yourself be so visible, visibility not in terms of the fact that I can see you, but the fact that you stand out among the rest. How do I position my message that it actually stands out among every other messages that talk about related products? How do I make mine stand out such that you're able to get the attention of the people that you're interested in? So what do I use, or what do I say in a bid to get your attention? This is what letter A stands for under our AIDA formula. Attention. But if I cannot get your attention, the attempt to sell your product or the attempt to advertise in a bid to sell your product just ends there, because I haven't managed to catch your eye. I haven't managed to make you notice me. I always ask in class, if I were to give you 10 lollipops, for example, and then I send you out to the street and I tell you, sell these lollipops to just randomly pick people to sell your lollipops to. How many minutes will it take you, or how many hours, or how many days would it even take you to just sell your 10 sweets? So Samuel Joe can tell you, it's so easy. It'll take me 5 minutes. It'll take me 10 minutes. Others talk of 1 hour. But then the challenge is when we ask, what will you do, or what will you first say that gets the attention of that person that you want to sell your sweet to? You wouldn't just walk up to anybody and then decide, I am going to sell the sweet to you. There's a reason we pick who we pick. And when we decide, I'm going to sell to maybe this lady with a child and not the gentleman that is walking alone, if I pick her, why her? And what am I going to say to her that makes her stop and listen to what I have to say instead of trying to dodge past me because maybe she thinks I'm a thief? So what will I say to this person that I've decided this is who I'm going to sell to? What am I supposed to say to her that actually gets her attention, that makes her stop and think about what it is that I have to say to her, whether she buys or not, but that at least I made her stop. So attention works. It makes your product stand out. It makes the service that you have to offer to the people stand out by how well you have been able to present it. Then we usually move from attention to interest. It is not enough for you to grab my attention. Can you keep me interested? I could say hello to you and then you stop. But the minute I say, I have sweets with me here I'm trying to sell, the way I said it is in such a boring way, such a dull way, it didn't really incite more from you in terms of you wanting to stop and continue to listen to me. So yes, you stopped because maybe you liked how I approached you, or what I said in the first place, or the way I had displayed maybe my arrangement of sweets. But when I started talking, you realized the beauty of it just ended with getting the attention. Your sweets are well arranged, they're well presented, your language is okay in terms of introduction, but then beyond that, you're not certain of what it is that you're supposed to say next. So the interest in the target audience is just missing. That person fails to see how they are able to benefit from what it is that you're telling them because the interest is already gone. So your attention is supposed to also translate to interest. You got my attention, but then what do you have to say to me that makes me still want to give you a minute more of my time, a second minute of my time? What will you say to me? Suppose you manage to convince me or to interest me further in the product that you have, in the service that you have. Will you convert that interest to desire? We always question, what is the difference between interest and desire? Is it one and the same? Are they two different things? Interest is one thing, but to desire to have something is another thing. Desire focuses on somebody truly wanting to own a certain product. Interest could be, I want to know the details, okay? I want to know where I can find it, fine, how it works. But then after I find out all of that, I don't really feel that this product is for me. It is not speaking to me. I don't think I need it. So you're supposed to now work on the desire. Assuming you've gotten my interest, how do you then convince me that you need to have this product, you want to have this product? I'm sure we have instances where you've seen a product, and based on how somebody has talked about the product, you felt, I truly need to have this product. I want to have this product. That is what desire is. The strong urge in you to want to own what is being advertised, to want to just maybe subscribe to a service that is being advertised. So how do we come from attention all the way to desire? This is the art of persuasion. Am I able to choose my words, depending on who my audience is, to convince them that the product that I have to sell is not just what I say, it can actually be able to benefit them in a way that I say, maybe it can benefit them. And then there is conviction. There is wanting something. I feel I want to own this product, but does the environment around me allow me to have ownership of that product? We said, get my attention. Keep me interested in what you're telling me. Then make me want to have that product. Conviction focuses on, am I convinced that this is a product that even if I really badly want it, it is a product that I should buy, I should own, and it is not going to be affected or affect any changes or cause any changes in the environment in which I function. I am convinced that having this product makes me a better person in society, or it still allows me to be a member of the society. But conviction focuses on, even if I want the product, am I going to still function as I did before I had access to that product? Sometimes we want to own things that after we acquire, we tend to be isolated, for example, from members of our society. Because initially, when I didn't have these, I belonged very well with my friends. But I went on, bought a product because I liked it, I wanted to have it, bought a product, came with it, my friends saw it, but they thought it was too classy, or they thought it was too cheap. So they start laughing at you, or they start saying, this one has a lot of money, I don't think they really belong with us. For that reason, in as much as you wanted that product, you begin to question, is it going to fit into my values? Is it going to fit into the values of the immediate environment in which I function on a daily basis? And if it doesn't, you realize in as much as you want it, you don't go out and buy it. You don't go out and acquire it. Not because you could not afford it, not because you didn't desire it, but because you were not convinced that owning that product will still allow you to function in the environment in which you normally have. You're not convinced that having that product makes you any different, or it makes you stand out from among other people. But for some reason, there's a part of you that doubts whether acquiring the product or just letting it go allows you to still be the you that you used to be. So you need to be convinced. But often you'll find people skipping the conviction part. Yet it is important in this, in the art of persuading a person. I need to make sure that you understand that acquiring this product makes you blend in with other people in the society. It makes you just continue being yourself with other members in the society. Take phones among the students, for example. Nowadays, we have phones that have advanced technology. What happens if I'm not able to afford such a phone and I can only be able to afford a kabambe? See, in the first place, I need a phone. I want a phone because I need some form of communication with other people. But I cannot afford the classy phones or the ones that are the touchscreen phones that everybody else has. I can only afford this phone that goes for this much, but doesn't have all of the applications or all of the technology, for example, that comes with all these new phones. In as much as that product may be advertised well, In as much as I may desire to have it, the problem is I'm not convinced I'll be able to afford it. So no matter how well you speak to me, I want your product, but I cannot be able to afford it, so conviction is missing. But this other product, in again, as much as it may not even be advertised as much in the media, the desire to own just some form of a device that allows me to communicate convinces me that the power of my pocket can only be able to extend this far. So I'll buy the kabambe as opposed to the touch screen. So conviction focuses on, I want to own this product, okay? I want to subscribe to this service, but what will it cost me? That takes away now that just the desire to want to have the product. Action finally focuses on, have I convinced you enough that this product is something that you need, it is beneficial to you, and this way, you should go out and buy it. So the action stage is when you have the consumer deciding, I want to buy the product. So if we go back to the example of the lollipop, you made me stop by what you said. The first thing that you said made me stop. Then you kept talking and you got my interest. Then you made me feel I needed to buy your product. I wanted to buy your product. For some reason, maybe just I'm hungry, so if you take too much sugar, which my sweet has, hunger goes away, so that makes me want your product. Or if you have a young child, you can take this home too. I can relate to that if I'm a parent. So you buy the lollipop, but that's the language that was used and how it was relayed to you made you desire the product. And I'm convinced by what you say. I'm convinced a child will like my sweet. I'm convinced sugar makes somebody feel full. So the conviction is there. Now the final step is me getting into my pocket, giving you the 10 shilling or giving you the 20 bob, and in exchange, I get you, you get me the lollipop that you are selling. So persuasion or influencing people towards purchasing of a product is another function of advertising. Then you have the third function, which is creating demand for the product. We advertise to create demand for the product. If you make something and then keep it to your organization, we will never know you have such a product or you have such a service. So often, when we come up with new products, when we come up with new services, we tend to give that information out to the public so that demand for that product is created. But if I make it and then keep it with me, chances that a huge section of the market will get to learn about my product will be really low. So I will tell you what my product is through the mass media, and that way create demand. But we also not just create demand for a product that is new, we also create demand for an existing product. Sometimes people tend to forget, especially in the face of so much competition. People tend to forget about even the existing products unless you've gotten to the point where you're just loyal to that product alone. But some people want to keep testing the products that come in the market. So if you don't take the time to remind us that yours also exists, in as much as it is not new, we may forget that it existed. So you need to keep creating that demand for the product. We have so many detergents that have come into the market that have found others that had been there initially, for example. But if the older versions or the older detergents, the ones that came into the market long ago, stop advertising, we may be tempted to start testing the new ones, and if we find them appealing, just forget about the old. So you advertise to keep creating the demand for the old and to make sure that people are aware of even the new that is coming to them from the organization, responsible maybe for giving them products or services that were seen to benefit them in the past. Then the fourth function is we advertise because we need to remove bias and misconceptions that people may have about our product or about our services. Often, you hear people in the society talking about this is what this product can do for you, or this is what this service can do for you. There's some truth in it. Sometimes it's exaggerated. Sometimes they're just outright lies. So we may advertise, not necessarily to talk about a new product or even create demand for it, but we are advertising to remove any bias, to remove any misconceptions. Remember the Omo advert that we referred to, that we said emphasizes on kuchunga mikono ya mama. They need to talk about especially that, because we have had a lot of people in the society who've talked about Omo inaniharibu mikono. So I don't use Omo because inaniharibu mikono. So if I'm advertising Omo, I am aware that it is a good detergent. It will get rid of the dirt, okay. But then how do I address, what do I do about this bias or maybe a misconception? If at all it is a misconception, how do I remove that misconceptions from the minds of people? They already know Omo exists, so it's not a new product. But the problem is, maybe as a result of competition, but also maybe as a result of just the actual experience of people using Omo, they don't like it because it is harmful to their skin. Now, as I'm advertising Omo, I need to reassure people by getting rid of the misconception that if you use Omo, your hands, it harms your hands and you cannot be able to go on with the washing. I need to get rid of that. So I'll advertise and emphasize on Omo is gentle on your hands. Omo is just friendly on your hands. So we could be advertising, not to emphasize about a new product in the market, not to even create demand for it, but to just counter any bias that exists in the market in regards to the product that I have or the service that I have. And then we talk about maintaining the sale of already existing products by confirming that your product is still the best. I have often asked my students, do you think Coca-Cola needs to advertise? Why do they continue advertising? In Kenya, for example, if Coke were to stop advertising, does it automatically mean that we would stop buying their products? Will Fanta become irrelevant in Kenya? Would the Coke soda become irrelevant in Kenya? So why do they still emphasize, even though we consume their products, whether we are referring to the adverts or we are not referring to the adverts? It's almost automatic. Maybe some of you, ever since you were young, you saw these products from the Coca-Cola company in your house. You didn't know what advertising was then. You just saw the product, you continued to buy it. Even now, maybe are still continuing to buy the product that is Coke with or without the advertisements. Yet, we see Coca-Cola always taking the time, always taking the effort to create advertising for the Kenyan media. Why is that even important? You're told you need to maintain the sale of already existing products. You still need to confirm to the people that your product is still the best. Yes, we may know you exist. Yes, we may like consuming your products, but we need to just be reminded, if just to appeal to our ego, that your product is still the best. You never take advantage or you never take for granted your audience, because who knows about tomorrow? A competitor may just come in the market and based on the relationship they manage to get with the consumers, they may just overtake you because you are assuming or you are taking your audience for granted. So you advertise again, in as much as your products may be rooted in the minds and in the hearts of people, you advertise to remind them, my product is still the best. So we still feel appreciated when you do that. So you think of, why does Coca-Cola even continue to advertise? Their product, maybe, I'm not saying it is, but maybe their product is still the best in the market. So they just advertise to confirm that for you, to reassure you they are still out there and they're still giving you quality products. And in turn, there's also the bit that makes me feel really good to know they can afford not to, but they're advertising. So as the consumer, I feel I am appreciated. Then you also advertise to fight off competition, because it is not really that your product may exist from a company that enjoys monopoly in the society. We're confronted with a lot of competition. The product I have, somebody else, or 2 other, 3, or even 10 other organizations are able to create products similar in their functioning to mine. So when I'm advertising to position my product in such a way that when I talk about its benefits, it's able to fight off competition from any other organization that is making something similar to mine, whether a product or a service. In regard to this, think about why Safaricom decided to create the For You advert, the one they talk about when we listen, we learn. So we listened, or we have heard you, and we're doing things differently. We are simple in how we reach to you. We are transparent. We are honest. Think about why Safaricom maybe had to take the time to remind us we are honest, we are simple, importantly, we are transparent. What in what initiated or what made them think about this particular advertisement? We had seen a lot of their adverts in the past, but none that actually took this direction of emphasizing on honesty and transparency. Immediately before this Safaricom advert, we had the Airtel advertisements that would allude, I'm not saying they did point, but they alluded to telecommunications companies that would not give you the full services as they initially or as they originally presented them to you through the advertisements that they ran of these two passengers in a bus, and there are these hawkers that are selling bananas. So one is in green, one is in red. You order, you tell them to sell you the bananas. The green hawker takes away, I think, a few bananas, puts them inside of his shirt, and then gives you the rest. So you get a raw deal, in short. But the one that is in red gives you all the bananas for the amount of money that you paid for. So why accept this from your telecommunication company? And then they tell you, switch to Airtel. And then after a period, now we had Safaricom talking about honesty, transparency. You are trying, in as much as directly, we were not told Airtel was fighting Safaricom. But if you look at the kind of advert that Safaricom aired after that, you're trying to still show the audience that I am in existence, I am giving you a service that is beneficial to you, but the approach you take wards off your competition. Just acknowledges I have a competitor out there and I need to beat them at the products they sell, at the services they sell, and how I do that is through the services or is through the advertising that I create. So know the intention. And it is why I said at the very beginning, when you know what your product is, when you know why you're advertising, who you're advertising to, even the functions of advertising become really easy, because I can be able to pick from one among these and say, this is the key reason I'm advertising. My product is already out there, so people know it exists. I'm advertising this time because I need to fight off competition, or I'm advertising because I need to remove bias, or it is a new product that I need to tell people about. But if you don't understand what your product is about, if you don't understand your audience, that is, how do they relate with your product? What do they have to say about your product? You not only don't know how to write your messages to suit them, you may not also know the approach to take in the way you write your advertisement. So you may not be certain whether it's just me informing them about a product or me trying to fight off competition. So the functions of advertising are quite many, but you have the major ones. But if you understand, like I said, why am I advertising? Who am I meant to benefit with my product? How am I even meant to benefit myself as the advertiser? You'll be able to come up with just convincing messages that are about persuading people to buy your product. Because at the end of the day, you have got to remember, I need to make money from the person that is receiving my message. So I need to persuade them. I need to appeal to them to convince them to buy my product, buy my services, and in turn, I get money from those products that I have or the services that I have. Note, we have been emphasizing on you knowing how to write. Beyond just writing a message, what I say or what I write, I need to also know how to write it or how to say it. So this takes us to what we call copywriting. Advertising is dependent on how well I'm able to write my messages, how well I'm able to present them to the people out there. So if that's the case, then you need to look at a part of advertising that focuses on the art of writing a persuasive message, which is what copywriting is. If you look at the definitions that are given by Jeffkins and someone called Bendinger, they talk about the art, the skill of writing, selling messages. What do I write? And then later, how do I present it to you that makes you to be convinced that you need to really buy my product? You want to own this particular service. That's what copywriting is about. But we will go back to, again, emphasizing on, if I don't know what my product is, copywriting becomes problematic for me because I'm not certain what I'm supposed to be writing for this product that I have, that I am selling, and I'm also not certain who I'm selling it to, so I'm not sure how I'm supposed to sell it, to sell that particular product. So the three, Bendinger and Bly and Jeffkins focuses on, or they focus on the art of writing, selling messages, referring that to as copywriting. Further, copywriting, besides it being an art, it actually comes with rules. I'm writing persuasive messages, okay, but then what are the rules of actually writing those messages? You're told the first thing is your copy or the message that you write must sell the product that you have. It must sell the service that you have, even if it is only reminding us about the product or about the service. And it is why, if you refer back to functions of advertising, we said when you're advertising, among the functions is to make people aware of your product by telling us the name of your product, the price of your product, where to find it, how to use it. But when you're looking at now the rules of copywriting, the first one talks about your copy or your message. The copy is the message. Your message must sell, even if it only reminds. My product has already existed in the market for quite a period of time. That is granted. But why am I advertising? Like I asked, why does Coca-Cola continue to advertise to date? Yet somehow they have acquired loyalty in some of the markets that they operate in. But when you're doing advertising, when we say write your message in such a way that you're selling, even if you're only reminding, you need to remember also that the audience's tastes and preferences will always change. The environment in which advertising works is not static. It is very dynamic. The audience of a particular message yesterday may not be the same audience today. If I was born and came into these, when I was born and I came in and found Coca-Cola, for example, giving people products or giving the Kenyan market its products, if the adverts that existed back then were still the same adverts that existed today, then we would fault this organization. We would tell them, in as much as you're advertising, you're taking your audiences for granted. Because that person that was 20, that person that was 30, 20 years ago or 50 years ago is not the same person today. Somebody is 50, but this organization is still advertising the same way they used to advertise when this person was 30, assuming they have been in the market for that long. That is not right. In as much as you're reminding us about your product, the intention is to sell, but you're selling to a different generation. So go to YouTube, for example, and see the various ways Coca-Cola has done its adverts over the years. The part that, or the advert that had the taste, the feeling Coca-Cola advert, the one that was protested in Kenya, if you look at the way it was done, it wasn't really supposed to appeal to every section of the Kenyan market. The urban youth, for example, the modern urban youth in Kenya may not have had, I'm not saying they did not have, but then I'm saying they may not have had a problem with the kissing scene that KFCB raised, because to them, such a scene doesn't really carry as much of, or it doesn't really violate any values as much, because it is what they do nowadays. It is not what was the case maybe when their parents were their age. And this is why you have that section of the society protesting and saying it's against the family rules, because they're looking at culturally, what are the values of the family in Kenya? But even if they hold to date, was Coca-Cola, for example, targeting everybody, or are they targeting a section of the Kenyan market? So when you say sell, write a copy, write your message in a way that sells, even if you are only reminding people, we are also reminding you as the advertiser that the audiences will always change. Things like generations gap are real and they exist. The taste and styles of people will change with concepts such as generation gaps affecting them. So the way you speak to me is not the way you would speak to a teenager in Kenya, is not the way you would speak to somebody in their 70s in Kenya. So these audiences are different, but we need to convince them to buy the product. So sell, even if you only remind, but bear in mind how you did your advert last year. The audiences, something about the environment in the audiences that you were targeting changed. And for that reason, you need to think of how you, again, advertise your product, even if you're only reminding me about it. Most companies in Kenya now have come up with adverts to fit what people call the kadogo economy. So that products such as Blue Band, Omo, and among others, used to have just, or they used to be packaged in just big quantities, maybe 500 grams if it is Blue Band, 1 kg. But nowadays you get even Blue Band for maybe 10 shillings because you are trying, based on the current financial status in Kenya, you're trying to appeal to even that person that needs your product but is not convinced that they can afford it because of the pricing. So given that, given I understand now we have a kadogo economy in Kenya, I need to come up with a message that makes it clear to the person that can only afford to spend 10 shillings on my product. It is available. So the fact that Blue Band is in the market is not really the point. It is that it is in the market for 10 shillings. It is in the market in any shop that is near you for this amount of money. That's what we mean when we say your copy must sell, even if it only reminds. The second rule of copywriting is your copies must always be repetitive. And the reason for this is really simple. We talk about it must be repetitive because it must be able to make me remember what your product is. So repetition brings retention. If I can't remember what your product was, if I can't remember what your service was, by the time you're done advertising, especially on broadcast media, then the advert's objective will not be met. So radio and TV are said to be one chance medium of communication. I only get that one shot to get your message. And if you don't emphasize on what the product is, itanipita. And for that reason, you need to always be aware of the channel that you're using to communicate and emphasize a lot on repeating the name of your product, not so much that it becomes a nuisance, but a lot so that we can also remember. A lot is dependent on the time that you have been allocated or the time that you have allocated for the advert that is going to air. So if I have 30 seconds, if I have 45 seconds, how many times can I mention the name of my product without sounding too repetitive, but at the same time not making somebody forget what my product is? If it is on print media, where do I write the name of my product and how do I write it in such a way that it stands out? Almost like it calls out to the person as they are reading the advert on the newspaper or the advert on the magazine. So let your advert be repetitive. Reason for repetition is always retention. If I can hear the name of your product twice or maybe 3 times, I am bound to remember what your product is. Then the third one focuses, or the third rule, focuses on the ability of your product or service, for the ability of that message that has the name of your product, that has the name of your service, to relay that message with a lot of impact and very fast. If again, depending on the channel of communication I'm using, I'm not careful on how fast I deliver my message, people may get distracted by other things that are done in the advertisement or other images that are on the advert, if you're looking at print media, that take away their attention from what the product is or what the service is. So let it convey the message quickly, let it convey the message with impact. And again, when we do this, there is a huge chance that when your advert is finally, or your message is finally out there to the people, they will remember what your product is when they're out there buying particular products or consuming certain services. They will remember how and what you said in relation to a product. I remember the Ilara Mawowowo advert. Look at how that advert is done on TV, how it was done on the radio. The song Mawowowo delivers the message very quickly, but importantly with such an impact that the next time you are in a supermarket or you are in a shop and you see Lara, you see Mawowowo. So I may not buy that particular product at that time, but the fact is when I saw the product, I remembered the advert. It made me smile, maybe. It made me react in a certain way. And maybe later on, maybe after a period, I may start consuming this product because every time I see it, I remember a certain advert I see on TV. It makes me smile to myself, or it makes me think about the drama that I saw. So I may just tell myself, let me test this out, see if it is as good as the dramatization on TV or as good as the colors on the newspaper. So deliver it with impact. Impact means let it never fade away from the minds of people. And how you do that is by knowing the channel of communication. What edge does radio have over TV? What edge does the newspaper have over the magazine? And as a result, how do we use them to advertise products that make them be remembered by the people that are supposed to be our target audience. And then to support that, you have point 4 that focuses on short words, short sentences, short paragraphs that allow the message to be delivered quickly, simply, and with the impact that we seek. The more you become wordy with your advertisement, the higher the chances that people will forget what it is that you were talking about. But the short words, the short sentences help to relay the impact that is required for advertising messages. Then number 5 is an interesting point, because we talk about you have to write clearly, you have to write simply, but this is not enough in advertising, because remember, advertising is persuasion. So clarity and accuracy, they're good, yes, but they're not enough. You must learn to abuse language, and we put abuse in quotes because it is not abuse the literal sense of the word, but abuse in terms of, do I know how to say something that convinces or that persuades someone to see something my way? I always ask people, if you've ever boarded a PSV, especially the buses in Kenya, and somebody comes on board and they start preaching, what convinces you to give this person money after they're done preaching? Yet we have heard all of these stories of huyu mtu ni biashara tu anapiga, they're not even actual pastors. I've heard this a lot. Yet you will see, the minute this person gets on board, there will not be, or we will not miss a few people within that bus after this person is done preaching that will actually give him money in terms of hii ni sadaka. So why does this happen? Does it mean they are die-hard believers, that they actually believe in the word that was preached to them? Or does it happen that to some extent, this person appeals to your psychology through the use of the language, abusing the language, and we're saying abusing quotes, through abusing the language to make you, or to create a certain feeling in you that makes you want to give the money. For instance, they tell you, when you give, you're serving God, or it will make you not go to hell, or something else that makes you just feel guilty for not giving them that 10 bob that you have in your pocket. They tell you, hiyo shilingi 10 uko nayo kwa mfuko, hata kama sioni, Mungu anaona. So now you start feeling guilty. You want to, I remember I have the 10 bob in my pocket. I should give this person because Mungu ananiona. So that's using abusive language. Abusive in terms of you are making somebody want to do something they would not have done because of how you're presenting a product or how you're presenting a service. In this case, it is a service because they are preaching to us. So how do I present my product? What do I need to exaggerate a bit? Because advertising allows for that. What do I need to slant a bit in just a bid to make you buy what it is that I am selling? I talk of the Nivea 48 hours protection advertisement. I don't say it is false, so don't get me wrong. But then I look at the message that is told by this advertisement when they say it offers you 48 hours protection. When I first saw the advert, the question in my mind was, so if I do use this deodorant, should I not shower for 48 hours? Does it mean if I shower and apply it, tomorrow I don't need to apply it because I have 48 hours protection? See, those kinds of questions are now what we're calling abusing language. You're not really being very clear in what you say. You're exaggerating a bit, or you're slanting language a bit, or you're hiding messages in what you're saying. And sometimes it is deliberately done with the right kind of effect. When you tell me 48 hours protection, I need that because I sometimes forget maybe to apply deodorant, or I don't like showering. So this, whether exaggerated or not, plays with the people's emotions, and as a result, it achieves the impact. It gets the product to sell. But the confusion of me asking, does it mean I'll not shower for 48 hours? Does it mean even if I shower, I don't need to apply it if I had done it 48 hours ago? See, now that kind of questioning is what we're saying. You're not being very clear, but either way, you're achieving the purpose of your advertising. This is now what copywriting is essentially about, and you have to observe the rules of copywriting if you're going to be successful in advertising. Then under copywriting, there's what we call the copy devices. If I'm going to write a successful advertising message, under copywriting, what devices should I use? Not all of them at once, but then what should I employ in the language that I use for whichever channel of communication that makes my product to actually sell? Jeffkins tells us about some of these devices that make it possible for us to sell our products. The first one is the use of action words. And action words for advertisements, the reason they are used is they make it, or they make the messages in the advertisement appear possible for the audience. If it is an action word, it means it is something that is doable. Take Naivas, they tell you buy and stand a chance to win something. So if I buy, I may win. You have the word buy, you have the word win. So buying is an action. So I'll go and buy what I need because after all, this is something that I can do, buy. And then there's a chance to win something. So anybody can win, I know that. But as long as I've made the action of buying, I am a possible winner or a potential winner of something. So you get to use action words because they help to make it seem possible for the consumer of a certain product. Use Vaseline, it will repair damaged skin. The word repair almost makes it look like it is automatic. If I use Vaseline and my skin is damaged, it automatically, or it somehow repairs it. So I know what the word repairs means. And this means it is something that can be done. So my skin is currently bad, but if I go with Vaseline, it will be repaired. Repairable for me is something that is doable. So I buy the product. So the action words help to make the product that you're selling, the words of the product that you're selling to actually be doable. Then the use of cliches, and they're also called buzzwords. But you're told the most common word that is cliche for advertising will always be the word free. Because this tends to play with the psychology of people. You're telling me, buy one baso, buy one packet of milk, buy one lollipop, and get one other free. So in as much as I was not going to buy this brand of detergent or sugar from this company, the fact that I've gotten there and I'm told for every purchase of 2 kgs sugar from this organization, you're going to get half a kg for free, it will make me, for that month, for example, ignore the loyalty I had to a certain organization that I'm used to buying sugar from and go with the one that is giving me something that is free. You go to the supermarket and there's an offer, buy detergents from this organization or buy detergents from this company or this number of bar soaps and you get a bucket free. So the minute you see free, you're interested in knowing what is coming, what am I supposed to buy so that I get this bucket for free, or I get this additional 500 grams sugar for free. So it's cliche. It's an old word that is used in advertising, but one that pulls people towards the direction of your products a lot more. So if you can afford to, then you advertise using the word free if you have something for free to give away. So again, don't promise something that you don't have. Don't tell me for every purchase of 1 kg of bar soap, I'll give you a free 500 grams. Don't do that if you'll not give me the 500 grams free, because again, that destroys the image of your organization. It destroys the credibility of any other advertising that you'll do in the future. But the word free is used with a powerful impact in advertising. Then you have alliteration, and this is repetition of words. So we repeat words a lot in a bid to create rhythm, which is again, supposed to help with retention. When you repeat words, you create a rhythm that is hard to forget in people's minds. So alliteration, we've given an example of an advertisement about a product called Juicy Fruit. So they keep telling us more bubble, more fun. So you see the words more and more are repeated, creating a rhythm that is kind of hard to forget. The fourth device is the use of emotive and exciting words. So you need to create the right kind of feeling about your product or service when to the person that you want to buy your product or to subscribe to your service. Look at how sellers of land give us their product or how they present their product. They make you feel, if I buy this piece of land or if I buy this house, then I'll be a proud owner. For example, they're talking about a lush estate. So you're using adjectives that beyond selling a product, they create a feeling that makes somebody proud, that makes somebody confident should they buy your product or should they buy your service. So lush, proud, those are adjectives that are about inciting certain emotions in people that make them want to truly possess a product or a service that you're selling. Then the last device is called repetition. Just like with alliteration, we repeat in a bid to retain the message in people's minds. We've given the examples of a product called Nudies. So they keep talking about chakula, chakula, chakula. So when you keep hearing that in your mind, you cannot confuse the product Nudies for anything but food. And you cannot forget what the product is. So you've told us it is chakula 3 times. Then you've mentioned or repeated the name of the product 3 times again. So Nudies, Nudies, and Nudies. So anytime I'll see Nudies, I'll remember it is a product that is food, and it is a product that I can find in a supermarket or a shop near me, and that way it is going to remind me of what the product is. So when you do advertising, in summary, you're telling us, I am doing advertising for the purpose of selling a product, for the purpose of selling a message. But how you write to sell that product for whatever channel of communication you use must match the audience that you're writing for, the audience that you're speaking to, that you're displaying images to. So know your product, know how to write messages towards connecting your product to the right audience. And this way, advertising meets its intention of selling products. But ignoring your audience or not being certain about what your product or what your service is renders the ultimate goal of advertising really useless. So this unit is a practical one that is supposed to give you the actual knowledge that you need to do communication with the intention of selling, communication with the intention of making your products and your services be out there consumed by people for the benefit, financial benefit of an organization. So that's it for today's class. Hoping you took something with you. And thank you for having me, and thank you for the lesson.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.